We're talking about furries today. I promise the comment about furries is gonna make sense in about T-minus, I don't know, 2 minutes. Just give me a little bit. I finally got around to watching what all I could of The Ravening War, which is, as of the time of recording this video, 1 episode. The first one. And I really didn't expect to make a video about it that early on. I thought I was gonna have to watch a few episodes, continue to watch more, and really get a feel for what I wanted to say. I try not to make videos if I don't feel like I have something important. However, in just the first episode, there was something that immediately stuck out to me. And shockingly, it's not Matthew Mercer's DMing, it's not Brennan Mulligan's insane shenanigans, or Abria Iyengar's immediate ability to cause a lot of issues with all of the characters. No, what I wanted to talk about was the world build. See, I already knew I loved the entire idea of Calorum. The whole world is amazing and so fun to look at. However, there was something more that got really pointed out the more that Matt went into this. See, we knew that they were going to take the chance to explore the rest of Calorum. The first campaign, A Crown of Candy, focused on Candia. But this was going to take a chance to look at the rest of the kingdoms. We've already gotten to see a ton of Vegetania and Fruterra. We've gotten to see all these different characters, but it made me realize that the world building is incredible, but there's a specific reason of why it struck so strong in just the first episode. And that is the fact that they had the ability to very clearly show characters through the different types of foods that they create. Which brings me to an interesting topic, anthropomorphism. Or specifically animal characters. Furries sometimes, but not always. See, a lot of the times whenever shows take a stance of using animals as characters, there's a chance there to tell a lot about the character just based off of what kind of animal is there. If you have a character who is a wolf, typically they are somebody who is considered to be a very hungry individual, a very aggressive individual, a go-getter. Or if you have somebody who is, say, a rabbit, they are typically considered to be fast, smart, intellectual, but scared. You can look at what animal is used to represent the character and make predisposed distinctions about them, which then leads to the ability to break those tropes or further play into them. It is a way of immediately communicating to your audience exactly what type of character is in front of you without having to do anything specific. It is a very unique and interesting storytelling tool that unfortunately very quickly gets pushed to the side because people say, ha ha ha, furries, you're a furry, you like Zootopia, and then it goes downhill from there. It really is a fascinating tool. I noticed that Calorum and the Crown of Candy series really uses this tool, but in a different way. Rather than using animals, it uses food, anthropomorphic food. If you guys don't know, anthropomorphism and anthropomorphic basically is just ways of inferring, insinuating, and taking an object which is not typically considered to be human-esque and putting it in that form in order to use it as a character. And that's exactly what Calorum does with all the food. And immediately we get to use this concept to understand how each of these characters is going to interact in the story, and only the first episode. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make predictions about these characters based off of the types of foods that they are, and we'll see if it ends up becoming true. And I did tell you that it was going to make sense that I was talking about furries at the beginning, so I hope that all tied in together. I didn't really go into this with a plan, so we'll see how it goes. But let's talk about the characters. We'll start, first of all, with the character that I mentioned at the beginning, Abria Iyengar's character. See, she plays a California Reaper pepper, which is already interesting in its own regards because peppers are oftentimes confused for whether they are a vegetable or a fruit, something Abria actually calls out within the episode itself. And she uses this fact to create a character who is very clearly inconspicuous but still draws attention to herself. And much of the ways that a pepper will oftentimes seem like just a regular fruit, but when bit into is incredibly spicy, Abria plays her character the same. In fact, she uses the ability to change her shape and her form to frequently disguise herself as different other characters so that she can create quite a bit of espionage.
You look lovely. Never mind. I'm sorry.
I immediately turn into her.
No, that's the most dangerous thing you could possibly do for yourself. Please stop.
Look, I'm a queen.
I don't see you.
I believe she's using the Mask of Many Faces invocation, though I'm not 100% sure. But the point is she is able to use this ability of being a pepper to immediately play into what her character does. And I think that's really fun. I'm also honestly not sure if her being a pepper is actually true. It's possible that she's been using the Mask of Many Faces to hide the fact that she's actually something else, but even so, that still plays into this character. And so we know that she is going to be this very intriguing individual who attempts to hide her true form in order to be able to hide that spiciness until it is time to strike with it. And immediately I already find that fun, and we'll predict that there's going to be quite a few secrets that will be revealed off of this character. Abria went out of her way to honestly kind of make all those secrets out in the open and known in the first episode. In fact, she even went and told what is supposedly her deepest, darkest secret to a character she didn't even know within the first episode, but I feel like that might be a red herring. So I would predict there will be more secrets revealed from her in the future. But let's move on to another character. Let's focus on the Queen Amango.
Lady Amango, let me say, she's Jessica Rabbit as a mango.
Literally, her name is Amango, and she is a mango, the fruitarian queen who is actually the queen of Vegetania because she was married into that and then her husband died. I think it is honestly very interesting and pretty obvious what that character is. Amango is very sweet on the outside, but tends to have a very tough and slightly toxic core. And I'm pretty sure that is exactly what's going on here. This character is already showing this sweet exterior, but has a hardened core of being determined to maintain her rule, despite the fact that nobody wants her to be queen, and everybody is seeming to try and get around her in order to establish a new ruler. I think we're going to continue to see this sweet exterior, which is put on for the sake of diplomacy, but there's a very hardened individual underneath who has a strength most people would not expect. And then there's Brennan's character. He's a radish.
Very wizened, elderly radish. I have a big old red head. And the wispy roots of the radish come out of my wizened old frame.
I'm pretty sure Brennan only chose this character to be a radish because he wanted to have a really large head. I'm pretty positive that's the whole reason. And don't get me wrong, it fits the character well. He plays a wizened old scholar and specifically a priest of the bulb. And, well, I think that's as far as it goes so far as to how the radish plays into Brennan's character. We do, however, know that he is holding a lot of secrets because Brennan doesn't have the ability to try and hold those cards too close to his chest. He wants everybody to know that he's up to something so that he can frustrate them by hiding the fact that he's up to something. And that's just how Brennan plays. But then we move on to Lou's character, who I find incredibly fascinating because he is a character of two different worlds. While he is from technically the Meatlands, he does have parents from different areas of the world. He is a rye sandwich, basically. Rye bread made out of salami meat.
He's has a face right on the edge of boyhood before manhood, 19 years old, a rich pastrami pink with a, though are his extremities, which are colored that of a rich marbled rye bread.
And I think honestly that goes as far as you need to know about the character. Very clearly he is from two different worlds, and in the first episode alone we get to see how much that really causes him to struggle. The Meatlands are a tough, harsh place, and his mother is a T-bone steak who is tough to her core. She definitely wasn't cooked. She definitely wasn't cooked rare. What is it called when a steak is well done? She was cooked well done. She's a very tough steak, is what I'm trying to say. Point is he clearly is this character who is divided between two worlds, and while the Meatland is where he's grown up, he has gained a lot of strength there, much like almost all of Lou's character. Despite the fact that he is very strong and has grown up that way, there's a portion of him that desires to be soft. And so that's the bread portion of him, the portion of him that wants to experience more of his homeland. And it goes across all of the characters like this in a very interesting way. And then we get to Zach's character, which is probably my favorite because he's a cheese man. He's made of provolone. And that's kind of the whole character.
Just sort of like a long coat, but it's like grimier. It's a little more dingy and gross because he's not exactly the first hire someone would make. He's very greasy looking, he's unkempt.
And I think that's the point. Provolone is not a strong cheese. It's not a particularly noticeable cheese, but it is an important one. And I feel that that is very specifically targeted for what Zach was wanting to do. He wanted to create a character who seemed to just be there, but there's something more underneath, and he will be integral and important to the story moving forward. See, all of this is just trying to make the point that the world building is amazing because it allows you to so clearly communicate to the audience and to the players exactly what's happening. See, if you have the ability to bypass the initial need to show what a character is based off of their actions by simply showing what type of food they're made out of, you get to immediately establish those preconceived conceptions. And then you have the ability to break them or to follow through with them. Like I mentioned, Lou's character is a T-bone steak, and she is rough and tough and ready to fight pretty much everybody at any time. And that matches the food that she was created with. And you can do that with every character, but it goes even further than that. See, one of the things you want to avoid while trying to do this is you have to avoid stereotyping too much. See, there is a conversation with this where you might accidentally go into stereotypes that could be harmful. And that is very true, but see, each of these different worlds shows things that don't exist in our world. We don't have walking T-bone steaks everywhere. And so we don't have to worry about creating harmful stereotypes around T-bone steaks. However, you do have to avoid falling into those stereotypes of the different cultures which you may be referencing. I mean, obviously with each of the different kingdoms in this world, they're all based off of a real life culture. So we don't want to accidentally create those harmful stereotypes. But I don't think that is a concern that is there because there is so much diversity even within those different kingdoms. Like I mentioned, with the Meatlands, they're very clearly based in this very tribal sort of system which they have grown up in, but each of the characters which we see from the Meatlands have their own unique definitions of morality, they have their own motivations, they have their own conceptions of what the world should look like, and that is very true of pretty much anybody in our own world. Despite the culture you may have grown up in, everybody will have different opinions on things. Everybody will have their unique experiences. You cannot stereotype people because everybody is different. And so I think this world building is honestly fantastic because it allows us to create those conceptions based off the food they're made, but also see their unique motivations. And it's just honestly so fun and so fascinating. It's something that you could do in your own world, whether it is anthropomorphized animals or food, etc. There's so many ways of using this to immediately communicate to the players what kind of world they're in, who they're interacting with, and then because you have that base set from the very beginning, you could build off of it almost immediately. And it becomes a very fun world building tool that I think is very interesting. It takes a lot of knowledge in order to use it in the right ways, to utilize it in a way that will actually add to the story and not detract from it by making every single character that appears feel like a stereotype. And so I would encourage anybody who wants to go watch The Crown of Candy or The Ravening War to go do so, because this is one of the best examples I've ever seen of how to do this properly and create a living, breathing world that can be communicated immediately to audience and player alike. And I cannot wait to watch more of this entire show. I will be going into more spoilery stuff and actually diving into the story as we get further into the campaign. But for now, I just wanted to talk about the world building because it's amazing, and I know there's a full team of people out there working really hard on it, and I feel like it should definitely be recognized. Anyways, if you want to watch more about the Crown of Candy stuff, you can go right here and go through my whole catalog, and feel free to like, subscribe, all the general YouTube stuff, because I guarantee you I'm going to be talking more about this, and if you don't want to miss that, then that's the best way to do it. Anyways, go out into the world, make it your own.